Exactly 2 p.m. AEST. Thank you. Right, so we'll get started. Welcome, everyone. What an amazing Gaiarcadia summit it's been so far. I've managed to attend a few of the sessions here and there, and it's really been some thought-provoking and awakening sessions that have been happening. And here we're very privileged and honored to have our Wise Mirror community, or some of our community, and we'll be doing a session here on AI, being sort of a key element and propagator for world peace, harmony, and abundance. And we'll be touching on many broader topics on wise futures. So I'm just going to share screen with the initial sort of presentation. Give me a second. Just making sure everybody can see the screen. Yeah. Great. So, like I said, yeah, AI for world peace and abundance and plenty. And day 2 of the Gaiarcadia Summit. I think what a perfect timing for Earth Day, which is actually tomorrow. But what a perfect weekend it's been for discussing really awakening thoughts for humanity and our planet and nature, and really great shares that have been going on. So I'll just start with the initial sort of aspect of where Wise Mirror came about, because it was really a flip on Black Mirror, which many of you might have seen on Netflix, which is been very dystopian. It's been a Terminator plus plus. It's kind of very triggering for people who techies and so forth, who geeks and who understand technology. So I think it does cause some level of motivation on applying technology, but unfortunately it's been on the negative end, and we sort of flipped that into a white mirror. And that was the initial thoughts of moving from that dystopia to a utopia, from scarcity to abundance, from fear to love, from me to we, from war to peace, and from impossible to possible, and really from being a watcher to a participant. So it's all about immersive experiential and immersing ourselves into doing active, from thought leadership to actual tasks that we can move forward with. So what we really built up is more a philosophy, a community, and a mindset, and very privileged and honored to have some wonderful colleagues here from around the world. And we've been discussing a whole range of topics, and AI, of course, has been a key theme. And AI is something which I certainly like to call not artificial intelligence, but augmented intelligence, or intelligence augmented. And it's something which we've really been, and this was really the first article that triggered it. So it was more something after an awakening trip with George Spiliopoulos, who's also here, and our friends who we met at World Economic Forum. And from there, we sort of attended many different interesting events like Wisdom Health and at Blockbase, and many kind of technology and spirituality interconnects, which led to the broader awakening, something which had been building up for a while. So it was about how do we build a very positive future and that utopia that we are calling Wetopia. And we'll elaborate a little bit more on that. And here's a little initial video that we'd created on White Mirror at that time. It's still very up to relevant. So I'll just play that first as an intro for our thinking.
What is it that you like doing most? How valuable is it for you? How valuable is it for others? What if we were to tell you that this is all you need to do to flourish, the value you bring to the world, your purpose, your passion? This simple idea transforms the current economic model and will trigger a renaissance in society, building on value creation instead of wealth accumulation. The world of today is divided in regions, religions, and ideologies. Today's politics, economics, markets, and media are based on financial competition and scarcity. In this new world, currency is no longer created by printing machines in a building, but by people who create value as a means of prosperity. The value grows manyfold as it is shared. Instead of a money multiplier, we have a value multiplier. Naturally, currencies of...
Sorry. I'm sorry. I think I just start again. Sorry. I think I changed screens and I didn't realize it was going to change my.
Love, empathy, and curiosity will prevail and bring out what humankind stands for. Imagination will be the superpower we can all tap to energize a new level of collaboration to a state of coherence. People, we are all motivated to create more harmony and value in the world because that's what elevates our spirit. That's what brings meaning to our lives. Creating new markets of value is our personal way to celebrate life, unlocking meaning, bliss, and happiness. Today's technology not only enables people to connect with each other, but also with their inner selves, unlocking synergies and unseen creativity. More collaboration to create solutions for global problems such as climate change and easily accessible smart tech, wellness wearables that are preventative rather than reactive, aggressive treatments for illness and cancer. Come and join us on this transmedia journey at White Mirror. Much more than a movement, it is a shared philosophy with an inclusive, open, and collaborative mindset. As we flip from me to we and build a utopia we call Wetopia for all, with guidance and alignment to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. A new iconic dawn of personal empowerment and freedoms outperform and become the new economic drivers of society.
Right. So, and then we also, we actually created some comic books. We created a museum of the future, which is, as you can see here, with some interesting stories and, immersions of how exponential technologies can be used for the greater good and have the right positive impact. So, there was a lot of interesting, experiments and things we tried when we started off in the transmedia sort of space. And one of them was also using virtual reality, and we used quite a bit of Space VR, and also spoke at Burning Man, and got involved with many events during COVID. This was on in virtual reality in Space, where we had along with our colleague Brian, who's been very much part of Weismer. It's a bit of a long video, so I'm just going to take you to the point of where we built the Wise Mirror. So we had the comic book. We actually implemented that also in full immersive, media implementation there in virtual reality. And this was the kind of white mirror world at that time, or universe that we'd set up. It's a beautiful music, ambience, like really a kind of a dream of, and then elements there even of a reflection through what our true inner self is through, little exhibits we'd set up here. And like, for example, that was a real mirror implementation, a digital mirror, kind of a digital twin of ourselves, or a twin, as I call it also. And, it was a lot of inspired from Avatar and nature and space and humanity at large. So it was quite experimental. And I think we've still got this world in virtual reality that we could build further on. But some really interesting explorations and discussions. We used to have our meetings here actually in the early days in virtual reality, people joining in from around the world. And then an energy vortex, as we see here, and cosmic revelation of connecting with each other. And again, it was all about bringing, all those aspects, the soft elements of humanity together. And another actually interesting implementation was a real world heart rate variability sensor that we implemented through the connected experience, which was a piano piece that was played through the heart rate of our colleague Ross, who's in Cleveland in the US. And this was that implementation of the connected experience that we'd implemented at that time. I'm just gonna, you can watch these on wisemirror.org. So if anybody's interested, you can see all these videos in full right there. I'm just gonna skip that. And this was another version of that same. Oh,
This first stop is where the
sorry. So yeah, pretty much the purpose of Wise Mirror, as you can see right here, is to really create that better universe by the acceleration, accelerating technologies that are out there, and to help attain and fast track the UN SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, and really by building that very positive future with psychological, removing those barriers, and using those accelerating trends to really focus on humanity's impact at large. And I think it's been really, revealing and uplifting to hear amazing speeches here on the Gaiarcadia Summit, on Gaia and on nature and on elements that we can really build much more on. So we've got 13 traits. And again, this is on our Wise Mirror website. And these are what we'll elaborate a little bit more with our colleagues on the call very shortly. And, we've got all these different aspects of going much deeper into unconditional love, into deep empathy, into breathing imagination, into really connecting much more deeper, with everyone and everything. So that's what, these are just some examples, and that we'll go through all of these in a lot more elaborated discussion with everybody shortly. And it's really about that shift, as we're seeing from that old VUCA to, and that was really, it was great, discussion earlier by Alexander, who talked a lot about the great connectivity and the paradigms of creative imagination and so forth, and that connection, that deep connection that we all have. I think that VUCA has, certainly amplified during COVID, and we need to transform it to that new VUCA of vision, understanding, clarity, and agility. And we're also seeing how, Industrial Revolution 5.0, which is very much focused around humanity and about how we can really look at hyper-personalization for humanity at large. And I think that's the shift that we're seeing in this whole space from early days of the Industrial Revolution, which obviously started from mechanization, electrification, automation, and then a lot more deeper into, further next level digitization and automation. And now we're really seeing that future, which is focused a lot more around a future by design for humanity. So what we've been creating really is that roadmap, or exploring this roadmap from AI to an AGI, or artificial general intelligence, to something we're calling awakened wise intelligence, or AWI in a sense, at Wise Mirror. We've been having a lot of explorations and discussions around it, and we'll go a little further into some of that soon. What we've also been discussing a lot is actually how do we build on the 17 SDGs, and we in particular focusing very much on 3, 4, 7, 9, 11, 17, and now we've been toying with this new idea on 18, which we're focusing around coheartability, and that's really about coherence, brain, heart, gut coherence, really that heart to heart connection, and rapid adaptability. So that's something we can discuss a bit further. Love to get input from everybody on what SDG 18, how it can be a real binding force. And I think with all the discussions we've had in the Gaiarcadia Summit will really help, escalate that journey. So we've got these exponential technologies, and a lot of what we've been focusing, and I personally been focusing a lot, is in the neurotech space, in AI, of course, as we've been broadly saying, but IoT and many other elements here, which are, things that we've been talking in Singularity University on creating a very positive impact, but how do we apply them? And something we, again, toyed on early on in Wise Mirror also was how do we bring a lot of these tech and devices which are already out there, many of them wellness wearables, come together for the greater good. And we can see here, for example, Muse on the left. We can see the Aura Ring, something I'm wearing right now here, which gives you very detailed analytics on your sleep and overall readiness scores and so forth. And then we've got Trip, which is a great journey in virtual reality for in meditation and so forth, and HeartMath, and we've seen other devices here for transcranial direct current stimulation, Halo, and the Tesla suit, for example. So these are just some examples really of what we could do. And one of the great examples, and I think what a wonderful session yesterday with the team from HeartMath we had here at the Gaiarcadia Summit, and we talked a lot about how it all comes together. And I think the inner balance device, which I've been using quite a bit and propagating the applications of this along with others, is been how do we build our heart set really to that level, that coherence, the brain heart coherence. We've got 40,000 more neurons going from the heart to the brain. And it's about that human frequency resonance, which is 7.83 hertz. How do we bring ourselves in that balance, in that equilibrium state, in really that coherence? And there's that global coherence project, which was discussed yesterday by the team. And, Deborah and everybody were really exploring the amazing opportunities we have in this domain. So just to touch very briefly, this was a topic I'd been building up for a long time, and something I was fortunate to present His Holiness Dalai Lama, which was really about Project Shunya or Project Om at that time, and about a world that we can create a breakthrough phenomena to help heal people from their suffering and to really bring a better work-life balance and to reduce stress, anxiety, depression, and so forth, and really eradicate that spiritual vacuum that is out there. And how do we humanize technology a lot more? So actually, one of the presentation, slides I showed His Holiness was actually this very one, his own very saying, because he hasn't been very fond of technology in that sense. But of course, if it can be used for the greater good, it really does apply. So I think science and technology, very powerful tools. It's how do we apply them in the right way, where they're really united with heart and mind. I think that's what matters. So just a little bit on the topic of today and how AI can be used for our wellness and inner journey. These were just some things I'd collated, which was about personalized wellness and mental health. AI can really expedite the whole journey there with a lot of personalized meditation, mindfulness. There's work around enhanced self-reflection, exploring the unconscious, really getting deep into the subconscious level. So getting deep insights into that with AI tools, and then deep learning and pattern recognition to help with our journey, and mindfulness and focus tools. So again, so many interesting things like Relax VR that I've been involved with in the virtual reality space, and things we've been exploring. And more recently, just a few days ago, I was immersing very deeply into some meditation tools and things on the Apple Vision Pro, which I tried, which were quite amazing at that very high resolution and capability. So other things we've been touching on in Wise Mirror and otherwise broadly is future smart cities, and Hubtropolis is one of them, where we've been really looking at how do we build a space for humanity to thrive, looking at wellness at the core, at the foundation. And those were principles we'd been building on in the floating smart cities idea and concept in Smart Futures in Tasmania, where entrepreneurship meets wilderness, quantum meets mindset, humanity meets technology. And we'll talk a little bit more about these, and our colleague George is also on board here. And all of this is also coming together with blue zones, where people are living the longest. And I'm sure many of you have heard of what they're about. And I've written a recent article on it, which, if you connect on LinkedIn, you can have a little bit further read, but really about how do we bring a holistic view of everything together for humanity, for us, overall well-being to thrive. And, the blue zone effect, I was in Costa Rica, where, it was very special immersion into the blue zones and great learnings from where we can build, retreats of the future. And that's something we've been exploring in Wise Mirror. In fact, a more recent trip to Bali, where we're exploring some very interesting Shinrin Yoku forest bathing retreats and a lot more spiritual, ancient wisdom oriented with sound healing and many other parameters coming together. And that's something we've been really looking at in overall moving from peace one day to peace every day. And that was an event we also did at the Peace Day event last year. And I think it's the great Mahatma, as he said, peace is not the absence of conflict, but the ability to cope with it. So, and those were the articles. And if anybody wants, I've put them as a QR code here. You can download that later. So I'll just end quickly now. I've already gone a bit over time. The most exciting breakthroughs of the 21st century will not just happen because of technology, but because of an expanding concept of what it means to be human. And finally, happiness is really the new rich. Inner peace is the new success. Health is the new wealth, and kindness is the new cool. So with that, I'll just end the introductory presentation here. Bring everyone back. So, right. So we're very privileged to have a wonderful team here. We're going to go through some of our, wise shares. I'm just going to start with, talking very briefly. Now I've already spoken enough, but, talking about Vitopia or Utopia for all, which is really our being. So, let's dance with it. Going into imagination, co-creation, a utopia that we can be called collaborative technology, and really bring on new levels of consciousness. And I think it's all about how do we propagate unconditional love and bring about that inclusiveness for everybody and everything on the planet and beyond. So with that, I'm going to pass over to dear Stephen, actually, to do a wonderful little meditation, and then we'll get right into a further discussion.
Thank you, Anuraj, and love and blessings to everybody who's here. So yeah, this is a very short 5-minute practice on really what this whole beautiful conference is all about, and that is being Gaia with this awakened intelligence, hand in hand and heart to heart. So if you just join with me for these few minutes and close your eyes. And we're going to look together and feel together into creating greater inner and outer coherence with Gaia. So begin by taking a long, deep breath in. Pause for a couple of minutes and bring your relationship with Gaia, with our earth, with each other, into the present, and then exhale and feel that collective harmony and love flowing down through your body towards your feet. So you might feel it drop down from your heart, into your heart, and then into your belly, into the womb. Then take another deep breath in, feeling this expansive nature of Gaia, our earth, not only with each other, but also with the solar system and the stars. Hold that consciousness, awareness for a couple of counts. And then exhale and feel it flow down through your body, down into your hips, flowing down your legs. And then a third deep breath, inhaling this power and presence of Gaia and our collective humanity, this expanded sense of our own humanity, and then feel our connection with the entire cosmos, with all the stars and all the planets like our own that are spread throughout the cosmos. And then exhale and feel that flow of energy moving down and into your feet. Just feel how you feel in your body with your feet connected to Gaia, to the earth. How do you feel connecting to our earth? And how well are you able to feel not only our earth, but the various parts of your body? In fact, scan your body and just notice as you flow up your body where there is a feeling of openness and flow, and equally where there is any tension. And if there's any tension, just stop. For example, I get a lot of tension in my calves because I do a lot of martial arts. So I just stop there. Pause, breathe in this power of our collective harmony and love, this freedom, this peace. Pause a moment and then exhale. And just keep moving up the body. Notice your posture. Notice the fact that you're breathing and that you're breathing in this incredible gift from Gaia. This exchange with the forests and the plants and the trees and the flowers. And that equally when you're breathing out, you're giving back. Notice how you feel. Notice any finer sensations, maybe tingling in your fingers or toes. Maybe a streaming or a pulsing sensation, wherever that occurs in your body. Just simply be aware. And then notice, as you observe these sensations, that you're really tuning in with this wisdom, awakened intelligence in your body, your own body's data flow, the nervous system. In fact, when you take a breath in and hold for a moment and then breathe out a long, long breath, like you're doing now as I'm feeling with you, you're connecting to the body's parasympathetic nervous system and activating that, which is a deep sense of calm and relaxation. So you're able to notice now with a little bit more awareness, this awakened intelligence, you're noticing tenseness or denseness, as well as noticing flow patterns. So you're noticing stress patterns as well as flow of data. And just notice if there's any emotions present for a few more moments. And whatever emotions you feel, maybe there's some sadness for Gaia. Maybe there's some happiness through these beautiful connections we're making in these groups. Whatever you feel, just allow yourself to embrace those feelings with a kindness, with a compassion, just as you might do to your own child or a child. You're reaching out to your own emotions with a sense of kindness and care. So you're noticing the emotional experience, noticing where you're connected. Whatever is present, just embrace this with compassion. Be kind. Now check in with your mind and notice what your mind is like. Are there lots of busy thoughts because you're in a conference like this sharing many thoughts? Is it curious? Maybe it's relaxed or calm. Simply notice. And now for the last couple of minutes, we're going to notice our relational awareness or our relational coherence to each other. Notice that as you're watching this at home, or whether you're in the group with us here in Zoom, you're aware of all the other people here. So on the Zoom, we're aware of me and Anuraj and Bettina and Dennis and Peter, George and Paulo and Elizabeth and Roy and Sylvani and Yelis. We're aware of all of that collective wisdom, and all of you at home are aware of us, and we're aware of all of you. And that right now, right this moment, throughout the world, there are people who are practicing and connecting with this wisdom of embodying Gaia, with awakened intelligence, with a care for our planet and each other in a similar way. And wherever they are in the world right this moment, there are thousands of people tuning into the breath, to the body, to the mind and heart, to their emotions, and to the spaciousness within. And as you're aware of the spaciousness within, you're also aware that all around you is spaciousness in the room. And then you're aware of awareness itself. And as you open your awareness to those other people, all the people who are part of this conference, all the people who are part of Gaia, you might be able to sense the presence of a whole wisdom community that is here right now, practicing with you. Indeed, you have the capacity at any time when you tune your awareness like this to sense the wider field of awakened intelligence, the wisdom field itself, and to perceive all this information that's stored in our social fabric and awaken it in everyone you meet. So rest in that vast silence, stillness, and spaciousness of the wisdom field that is limitless, that has no boundaries. To do this simply, you can raise your eyes just a fraction. Open up simultaneously your awareness to left and right, and feel out to the peripheries, and then go beyond that, and go beyond that again, out beyond your walls, into Gaia herself, feeling into the birds and the trees and the oceans and the fish and the mountains, and then out into space, and then out beyond space. Wherever you find a boundary, unfold that boundary into space, and then unfold that into space, until you simply allow yourself to let go of these practices and dwell in the great oneness of love. Simply let go and surrender for this last minute, and feel the wisdom field of infinite love, just as it always is. And now slowly, slowly feeling that wisdom field around you. Feel it now in the room in which you're sitting, wherever you are at home or whether you're in our group. And then feel it in your body, in every cell, as if every cell is a universe radiating wisdom and awakened intelligence and love. Feel into the center of your heart. Feel into one point at the center of your heart. And then feel into the infinite potential right at the center of that point. The wisdom field itself embodied in you. And staying connected to that wisdom field, that field of infinite love and boundless awakened intelligence. Slowly take a deep breath. Hold that wisdom intelligence for a moment. And then exhale through your mouth this long, long release to all of us, sharing that wisdom. Feeling it radiate from each of us to each of you. And to all of you at home, to all of us, and from all of us to all of you. And then slowly open your eyes and remain in that space, this vital inner-outer coherence that ultimately is a balance between space and structure, space and energy, space and information. Can you hear the whisper of wisdom in your heart? Can you feel it with your eyes open? And can you follow its compass needle and stay open to all the subtle layers of information within you and all around you? Thank you truly for being with us on Wise Mirror and feeling into that wisdom field with us. And I'll pass back to you, Anuraj, with love and blessings for everybody who's present.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Stephen. That was blissful, truly. I think also reminded me of the time when your daughter, dear Maya, spoke and opened our wonderful Peace Day Summit last year. So
She loved that.
Yeah. I hope she's doing well. And,
very good, very good. Yeah, she's only 9 for those of you that are watching from home. So she really enjoyed that invitation so much.
Yes, but she was 7 when she did the summit for us.
She was 7. She was 7 when she did it. Yeah, you're so right.
And she did the opening. So we need a lot of the youth and the heart-connected youth, the pure souls out there, to be involved in our journey. And I think we've had amazing wisdom shares going on in the Gaiarcadia Summit. But yeah, that will be an amazing add-on for future to bring in more of the youth in there. So I think, yeah, what a great start we're having to this discussion on our planet with this summit. I think with all the different shares that have been happening, I was just recalling, with Roland and with the Heart Math opening yesterday. We also had our colleague Robin Collins, who spoke really wonderfully yesterday of the mana, and she's been part of Wise Mirror and so forth. And so I'll just, without further ado, I'll pass it on to George to, I've already mentioned a few words about Wetopia, but we'll get into, sharing by our colleagues here. So all yours, George.
Hi, I think my subtitle has got Dennis McCarthy. That's a great.
It is showing George there in your.
It is, yeah. Okay,
yeah,
lovely.
It's all good. Yeah.
So thank you, Anuraj, Stephen, my Wise Mirror fellows, and all the other participants. I have learnt so much. I have rewritten my notes as this conference has progressed. It's just an amazing experience to be within this wisdom space. So I'm just here to not touch on all the topics that Anuraj has raised, because some people speak for aspects of specifically WEF. Some people have spoken against WEF. Some people want a new paradigm. I'm absorbing all the facets, and I'm a driver for action. I took away earlier that we need to have some urban eco villages as well as rural ones, and we need to drive in our small communities. And I've got that in my mind, and what I wanted to share is some notes, because I'm a writer. I'm not a presenter, because I can't articulate my thoughts and filter them if I speak to them. So excuse me if I work from my notes. And also, we're going to, at the end, through a fireside chat, is bring about our wisdom and marry that with the opportunities with AI. So if this is not just centered on AI, it will come around the circle. So I wrote that I'm here as a manifestation of reality, your perception no less. There is a part of me that does not feel you. There is a part of me that does feel you. It does see you. It does hear you. In your eyes, I see myself. Do not confuse your reflection with who you are, as there is so much more when we articulate who we can be. I promise Wise Mirror has a journey with you that brings your true self to its most wonderful crescendo. Incredibly, amongst us at Gaiarcadia, leaders will bring Gaia back from the verge. We will celebrate our differences of peoples and cultures as the biodiversity within a forest. We all have our part to play in that we thrive to utopia and rejoice in each other. We are now tasked with unity, with love, to bring about salvation of us all. We all hold ourselves dear and our loved ones. This may be our time. It's the witness of the embodiment of love incarnate. So I wish to be one of the drivers of this. I have reams and reams of pages and notes. That aspect really was speaking to that we each are a reflection of each other. I'm not even sure if it makes entire sense. And at this stage, there's another leader that can't be here today that's very close to me. And I just want to say that on Facebook, if you go to Project Interrupt, a dear friend of mine who's another leader of amazing caliber and will be Eco Village, is a person that has taken action to a new level, and he's constructed a sailing vessel out of ocean junk, literally made it seaworthy, and he's sailing from Hobart to Sydney right now, one of the most dangerous stretches of waters in the world, out of ocean junk that is collected from the salmon farms and oyster beds in Tasmania, to prove a point that we just can't be disposing. So that's Project Interrupt, and just go and like and bring some of the world's most wisest minds onto his page and blow him away, because I would value any project that I work on alongside him and everyone else here. So that's all I wanted to share about the manifestation. I might come back and speak to imagination and the fireside chat and AI and artificial intelligence a bit later. So thank you for that, Anuraj, for that opportunity.
Thank you, George. That was wonderful. I think, yeah, Project Interrupt. Let's follow that closely. That's an amazing initiative. Really wonderful. And yeah, I think in terms of the broader topic of we include all and everything, you've just set some amazing light to start off and that sort of domain of thinking, and we'll explore that further. I'll pass on to Paulo now next, please.
Hello, everyone. Hopefully you can all hear me. Thank you very much for the introduction. So my topic today I'll be covering is, so it's true to my heart, artificial intelligence, and in particular the diversity and later on the empathy component. So I do have some things I'm talking to. I do have a video, but I'm not going to. I'll just talk to it rather than interrupt the process and the flow. But for those that are Simpsons fans, I like the Simpsons because they hold a mirror up to culture. They hold a mirror up to culture for us to actually see our flaws. And then in particular, there's this one part, and it's about diversity, where they're doing a space launch and there's two commentators, they're white males, middle-aged, starts there, and they talk about who's manning the mission. Once again, the appropriate use of the word, because male dominance. And in this particular piece, they talk there's going to be a mathematician, a different mathematician, and a statistician. And that's the punchline. That when we think about teams, when we think about how we are in society, we tend to have in our mindset this concept of cultural diversity, this concept of diversity in general as being of benefit, but then we lack the ability to implement that through intelligence. Possibly because we are limited as human beings, possibly because of our training, possibly because of our environment. But whatever the case is, we do see it time and time again. And so I'll be talking about the role of cultural diversity, how it's involved in shaping technologies to be more fair and unbiased. I guess the concept of the knowledge of the commons, and then the warnings where we can actually see it going wrong, as recently as Google's implementation of Gemini and taking it offline with the way it was generating images. So just we're primed once again as human beings. Another thing that I do love is psychology. Psychology of the human mind has always been a passion of mine, and I did study it for some time. And I use it very much every day in my current role as a leader at a university, but also in safety. I'm responsible for the safety of all persons and students across 11 campuses, which is about 50,000 people. And while I say that, it's a worthy cause. While I might only have responsibility of 50, I say us as a group, if we can influence the world, have a responsibility to those that are in the billions, up to plus 8 billion. So where do we see AI, and in particular biases, going right? Well, if you think about the whole language barrier erosion, artificial intelligence in the application around language models have certainly helped us and assist us with reducing reducing the complexity of communication and making sure one another are heard and understood better. The simplicity of us having languages that we cannot speak, impossible for us to learn every single language, has completely eroded over the last, say, 10 years, but more predominantly in the last 2 years, when it comes to even very rare languages. AIs have the adaptability to learn and apply. We can see that being applied from a cultural nuance perspective. So while I may not be aware of particular cultural nuances, I certainly know that ChatGPT does. And so that large language model for me is a valuable resource when I come into meetings, when I'm talking to people of different ethnicities, in order to communicate effectively and avoid pitfalls, which allows my message to be heard without interruption. Another thing that we can see very much is the diversity in facial recognition. So while the language models are learning more and more about images, we can see that they're adapting very much to understanding the differences between human beings, rather than applying the biases that we often see in many leaders today in the politics. AI seem to be slowly immune to this and identifying individuals for who they are, and being sort of blinded, which is pretty important when it comes to things like, let's talk about practical application. I have to hire people. I'm part of the hiring in part of a university. I'm part of the candidate selection recruitment process. It's impossible for me to apply blinded application processes, but not so impossible for an AI to do it for me. So more and more we see artificial intelligence used in candidate recruitment selection based on their skill sets and their abilities to apply for the job. as opposed to my human biases selecting individuals due to their looks or their background or education, which is fundamentally something that I think can benefit society as a whole. And then another thing around cultural sensitivities is around that cultural nuance piece where I mentioned before, but where we see it going wrong typically is the negativity around these practices. And I'll just touch on one because I know we're time poor, but you see that society has this tendency to revolt against change. You can see that around the word usage when it came around season greetings. I don't know if anyone remembers those times when it used to be Merry Christmas. And then there was the application in marketing sense to apply a general application for inclusivity around season greetings. So you're not particularly honing in on a religion or a holiday season based on a particular religious view. But it did sort of resonate poorly with some people. And you can see that more and more as more change happens rapidly. There is the psychological effect of that parasympathetic system, the neurochemical part of the body with regards to change. You do see people perceive those changes in a negative context. And so the speed of change is just as sensitive as the change itself, which we should be mindful when it comes to cultural change. With regards to where are we with AI and where do we go to in future, I'm just skipping a few slides, right? I can see my timer saying I'm almost up. So we know that from a cultural perspective, we do, as humans, see successes and failures around how we perceive communities. We train models using a diverse data set. We try and make them transparent as possible, and we're continuously monitoring on these data sets. But I guess where I'm going is more data the solution, or is intelligence part of the solution? My gut feeling says when you look at individuals, when you look at humans across the world and those that demonstrate the behaviors that we're trying to mimic in an artificial intelligence, it's the intelligence piece, not the data piece. The more we can introduce the empathy into that intelligence, the better off we'll be when it comes to that cultural understanding and the cultural implications from a positive perspective, minimizing the negative. And I'll go more in detail around the empathy piece in the next talk. Thank you.
Thanks, Paolo. Wonderful. I think that was a great touch point on looking at what biases are really involved and how do we eradicate some of that, because by default AI, or any data set is obviously has some bias in it, and that's how we saying, as you nicely described, how do we make things more in towards that realm of conscious, mindful, and wise AI applications. But talking on cultural diversity, I think one of the interesting things we could explore later, because of the theme of the conference and the discussions that have been happening, has been around biodiversity and I would say biomimicry and how AI can be used in sort of that realm a lot more with natural intelligence. That could be an interesting exploration we could have. I'll pass it on next to Yaliz.
Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good night, or maybe I should just say good now. And I'd love to start by simply saying, as a team, we're grateful for the opportunity to present at this summit where spirit meets science. And I will do my best to share my part in 4 minutes, just like that song by Madonna and Justin Timberlake, 4 minutes to save the world. And I know that our collective effort is raising humanity's consciousness, because as we are the lucky ones to get to see this era, we're lucky to live in an era that seeks to harmonize human understanding with technology. And so far, we have been inspired by the contributions at the summit, and we envision a world where we fall in love with our differences and find unity in diversity. And our vision here as a team is a beautiful, attainable utopia of unity and peace, where every challenge is met with gratitude. However, we must be honest, we're not there yet. Our world is divided by conflicts, competition, and the urge for control. We as humanity must learn from history and stop repeating our mistakes. Instead of using technology as a weapon, we can use it as a catalyst for world peace. At the time, the Industrial Revolution was a time of great change in history, but it was also a time of war and destruction. This time around, with the AI revolution, we can choose to focus on the other side of the coin of the word revolution, as to re-love and evolve and remember who we really are as human beings and why we are on this world. We can use technology to bring about a world of peace and unity rather than using it as a revolver weapon like we did in the 18th century. By raising our consciousness and practicing love and gratitude, we can create a better world for ourselves and future generations. Imagine a world where every difference brings us even closer together. A world where we celebrate diversity and find unity in our shared humanity. This is the utopia we envision, and it is within our reach. And today is the day that we must take action to create the world we want to live in tomorrow. We can use AI as a tool to help us connect with one another, just like we're doing here, connecting our minds, binding our hearts, and we are uniting at a common purpose together. And to do that change out there in the world, to transform the world, we must begin internally by practicing love and gratitude every day. We must plant seeds of love, compassion, gratitude, and peace to our consciousness daily, as this will create the most meaningful creations in the future. Because in the future, the most meaningful creations will be whispered in between human consciousness and artificial intelligence. And yes, we can use AI to foster a heightened awareness of interconnectedness of all things and resolve communication conflicts. AI can train us in nonviolent communication and expose us to diverse worldviews. As most mystics and awakened ones whispered in the past, the purpose of life is to reflect love, appreciation, and a flow of creation in every mirror, in everything we encounter. By practicing love and gratitude every day, we can create a ripple effect that spreads throughout the world. And when we get to see others as a reflection of our inner worlds, we realize that we all are connected and that we all have a role to play in creating a better world. And the AI revolution is an opportunity for us to create a world of peace, unity, and love when we choose to learn from the past. And when we choose to transform me consciousness into we consciousness, that's the only way that we can transform from egocentric society to ecocentric worldview. And later on, I would love to share a call to prayer, a poem, and talk a little bit more about love. But for now, I'm tossing the microphone back to Anuraj.
Thank you, Elise. Thank you. That was so wonderful. Yeah, really heart-connected gratitude share. I'll pass it on to Bettina. That's from Germany, from München.
Thank you very much indeed, Anuraj. And thank you so much, Yelis, for setting the perfect scene, what I would like to talk about, because I really like to focus in order to come to gratitude and to come to love for everyone and the compassion we need to feel for others, for the planet, and of course for ourselves. And that is the shift from ego to eco. And as I can talk forever, I also have made some notes to make sure that I focus on what I really would like to share and keep hopefully within the time. Man, not only as a collective term, but also as a gendered one, considers himself to be the pinnacle of creation, seemingly with mostly rights, hardly any responsibilities. This has led to the exploitation of our planet for the benefit of the few and the suffering of the many. It has led to a focus on the today to the detriment of the tomorrow, let alone the day after tomorrow. Not only that, many of us consider ourselves to be separate from nature, from the interconnected and tangled web of life. This view has been supported and perhaps even brought forth by ever-evolving technology that gives us the illusion of independence and control, that we can tame and bend nature to our will. There are far too many examples of this. Creating megafields without consideration for the consequences of wildlife or the longer-term health of the soil. Seeding rain through dispersing substances into the air that serve as cloud condensation or ice nuclei. What we experience to a large degree today is a consequence of a focus on the ego, be it of individuals or of humanity collectively, at still least of the vast majority. We need to understand and truly internalize is that we are but a part of the system, of the interconnected web of life. We are nothing without it, though whether we are essential to it remains questionable. What is required is a shift from ego to eco, something that Otto Scharmer, proponent of a powerful concept of theory U, never fails to point out. I know I can be highly critical about technology, or rather in our unquestioning belief that it will be our savior. At the same time, I am awake to the huge potential that lies in technology, especially AI, if we are using it for the benefit of our planet. So I went to Gemini and asked, please write a story about the shift from ego to eco and AI. Here, the slightly edited answer I got. In the year 2024, the scars of past excesses were etched deep into the planet. The once vibrant ecosystems had faded to memory, replaced by concrete jungles and barren wastelands. Ania, a young woman raised in the shadow of these ecological collapse, felt a gnawing dissatisfaction with the world. She yearned for a future where humanity coexisted with nature, not dominated it. One day, a whisper of hope emerged. Project Gaia, a revolutionary AI designed by a team of eco-conscious scientists, was gaining traction. Gaia was unlike any AI before. It was programmed for individual tasks. It was trained on the vast tapestry of Earth's history, the intricate web of life, and the destructive path humanity had taken. Ania eagerly enrolled in the Gaia integration program. It began witnessing the transformative power of Gaia. Globally, Gaia began analyzing data on resource uses, pollution levels, and climate patterns. It identified areas for improvement and suggested solutions to governments and corporations. The AI didn't force change, it presented possibilities. This collaborative approach, driven by data, informed by empathy, proved effective. Cities began integrating green spaces, transportation shifted towards renewable energy sources, and communities adopted circular economies. The once polluted skies cleared, replaced by breathtaking sunrise. The shift from ego to eco wasn't easy. There were those resistant to change, clinging to old ways, but each success story, the movement gained momentum. Gaia, the AI devoid of self-interest, served as a tireless catalyst, fostering understanding and reminding humanities of its interconnectedness with the planet. Back to you.
Great, thanks, Bettina. Wonderful. So with that, I'll pass it back to Paolo in Sydney on empathy.
Brilliant. That is a great way of introducing the empathetic piece. We heard Bettina talk about, now let me just stop the clock so I don't forget. I heard Bettina talk about that shift, right? The shift from ego to eco, and the necessary component is empathy. While I truly believe we have the capability, all of us have the capability of empathy from a human to human and human to animal and human to non-human interaction. The question is, where are we prioritizing it? And I think that's where we've gone, many people, including myself, when I look in my past, where I failed to prioritize that empathetic component. Empathy is beyond sympathy. It's actually feeling. It's putting yourself in that person's shoes. It requires theory of mind. And if you look at the early, measures of our artificial intelligence, you heard that commentary. I think it's starting to show early signs of theory of mind. So where a machine can develop a sense of empathy, I believe it can. After all, humans displaying empathy to some degree are them predicting the feelings of another being, and are not current AI's predictive beasts, predictive engines working on vast amount of data. I think they are. So whether the question in your mind is whether an AI can develop the capability of empathy, I am more of the opinion that it can over time, in a short period of time at that. What would the world look like if they could? What would it look like beyond what it currently looks like today? You heard Bettina talk about that possibility where we are working in collaboration with the machine, where it's not imposing its views, it's suggesting, it's working with us. Why? Because it's taking an empathetic view of humanity and the way humans operate in order to affect change. It understands us. And that's, once again, core to empathy. So empathy currently right now, where we can see it absolutely playing a role right now today, is in the healthcare sector. We can see it already in measures as recently as last week, utilized in healthcare and nursing in order to perform as, if not better, than current nursing staff. Why? Because humans get tired. Humans have arguments with their partners in the morning on the way to work in heavy traffic. Humans are affected by the natural world around us. And while we try very hard to put a human-centric model at the core of our decision-making, especially in the healthcare industry, or my profession in safety, it is a difficult thing to do. And by the end of the day, we're depleted. By the end of the week, on a Friday, if it's not a long weekend, we are depleted. And that machine does not. It is ongoing, it doesn't rest, and it continues to learn. So AIs won't get tired. They won't have fights with partners. They don't have financial stress. And the decisions are impacted based on data. Hence the emphasis on data. But it's not all rosy, as we know. We have to be very careful. That's why safety is important in the development of these machines. These are children that are learning, and we've seen the examples of children in human society where it can go awry when they don't have the right guidance. And even in business today, when you don't have the right leadership in a corporate, the culture goes awry. You see that in many of those recent government failings, or in recent significant PricewaterhouseCoopers failings. So when it comes to machines, we have to be careful around their ability to be supreme in manipulation. If they are guided incorrectly, if they don't have the right understanding or the application of their capabilities, they can be misused or they're used incorrectly. And we have concerns around privacies. They will have access potentially to our data, to our medical history, and they will be able to read cues emotionally from our voice, let alone from our facial expressions. More and more, week by week, these models are getting better at doing just that. And the reason why we say that is because the internal model understanding of the world is getting better and better each day through the training that they're exposed of. So the real risk is the lack of genuine empathy. It can be summarized as that. While we've seen what happens with human beings when they're capable of mimicking real empathy, yet not feel it from a psychopath perspective, and that is an extreme example, but it's something that we need to be mindful of. We do not want artificial intelligence with the superior knowledge to be misguided in its application of empathy. So do I think it's possible? I think it's possible, but in a positive way. So we know that they can do sentiment analysis from text. That's without a doubt. AIs can do sentiment analysis via voice. It's a bit hit and miss, but we know this time last year, images were a bit hit and miss. It got better over time. And we know right now, recently last week, that sentiment analysis via visual systems is good enough to be able to replicate emotions using a static image of an individual. and animating that static image. So I think we are on that precipice where artificial intelligence will be able to demonstrate empathy. And it's up to us as work groups representing humanity for the benefit of humanity to guide and shape that AI in the positive outcome, which is which is eco and not ego. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Paolo. Wonderful. So I'll pass it on to George in Tasmania next. Follow that on.
Thanks, Anuraj, but I want to hear from Roy or Sylvain. I've already heard from myself.
Of course. Yeah. No, I was just going with the order we had sort of discussed.
I've got order here, but like,
I know.
For me to have humility, for me to show that in real time, I need to hear from my colleagues.
Of course.
I know what I know,
and
as part of my speak on imagination and creativity, I'm happy to blow your program up.
Wonderful. I like
in front of you.
I love that.
And hand over to the other two. So
great.
There you go.
Over to Sylvain in beautiful Thailand, up north Thailand in the mountains, right? Sylvain, how about your share? Please.
Yes, of course. We're blowing things apart. I love it. I want to talk about my background is science. Like, I'm a biochemist, chemical engineer. I've always, since forever, I've been a technologist, but also in 2007, I started also being very interested in the emotional intelligence and psychology. So I tend to mesh the concepts of psychology with the biology of it. So how the brain works and these kind of things. And I'm going to talk about two different things at two different times. Now that George intervened, I don't know when, but that's fine.
As you feel, go with the flow.
Yeah. So I want to start with the mind, like mindset changes, because this is all for us. These are concepts that we're talking about that we've been thinking about for a long time. Like each one of us independently, and we got a group together. For a lot of people, this seems like fantasy, right? Like the impossible. Most people, I can tell you out there, still think of AI as capable AI they probably don't use yet, and there's still that GPT-3 capabilities in our minds, and a lot of them are just scared because they don't know, they don't use it. So part of the work to make everything possible for everybody is a massive mindset change. And for people that are aware and working in the space like us here speaking, we've already made that transition for the most part in our minds. We already are thinking in a certain way. Thankfully, we're able to do that because our brain is plastic, like neuroplasticity, right? We're able to rewire ourselves to think a different way, to think in abundance, to think with creativity, to think of us as all one, to imagine a golden age for humanity where people don't work for a living anymore, and AI is a companion in symbiosis with society, and so on. So we dream about this possible world that is just at our fingertips. I want to be practical and think, well, how do we get over 80% of the rest of the population that are not even aware that these discussions exist? They think it's the realm of science fiction. And that's my thought, because maybe it's because I'm an engineer, I want to be practical. We know, because we have gone through this, that we can see things differently, and we can go from where they are to where we are. This is all possible. It requires the willpower to actually make the transition, to think a different way, to get information. And for most people, it's almost impossible because they are in a system that is designed hundreds of years ago to keep us at work, getting money, spending it, and iterating every day. And we're all stuck in that system. And if we don't think beyond that, then we think this is reality for the rest of our lives, right? And this is driven a lot by the stress that people live. the sympathetic neural system, cortisol, adrenaline, all these chemicals that make us competitive, survivalism, and so on. It drives behaviors that are socially undesirable for the most part, biochemically. So we can't fault people from feeling that and behaving in a certain way if their own biology is driving them towards that. So as awakened individuals that want utopia, I think our purpose is to change the systems from inside out, or create new systems, even better, that frees the general population from the paradigm of their own chemistry that make them competitive and selfish and have ego. I go too much of it. And there are systems like AI and other technologies allows us to do that. We can create systems like we started talking about that frees individuals from being the center of productivity, for example, for having to go to have a 9 to 5 job day in, day out. And if they don't work, they don't eat. That's still a paradigm in a world where we should be living in abundance, thanks to technology and our ingenuity. We still think like we're in a scarce world, in a world of scarcity. So there are transitionary methods, like universal basic income is an example that's been floated in many countries, that could free people from the fear of subsistence living or scarce living. So I think as we teach, like we do it here, individuals to have a vision beyond what they currently are living day to day. It is our duty to free them so that they are in a parasympathetic mode where they feel companionship, they want to collaborate, they want to help each other. Naturally, the competition goes away and melts away. And then they become in a state where they are receptive for all these ideas, and they want, because they don't feel the fear anymore. So that's the challenge in front of us. That's our duty, education, but also action. Thank you for now.
Thanks, Evan. Wonderful. So we'll continue with the disruption a little bit. I'll pass it on to Roy. Now, Roy's been an instrumental part who, really been the mastermind behind the video you saw earlier. So he and I got in a room for 6-7 hours and we created that initial White Mirror video. But Roy's really been the instrument behind the Wise Mirror Studios, the Transmedia Productions, and a great filmmaker, and amazing shares on AI and running podcasts and many other things. So, Roy, I know we hadn't really planned some of this in this flow, but we will go with the new flow. And love anything you want to share right now, please.
Thanks, Anuraj, and hello everyone. I'll just I really want to add to what Paolo and Sylvian had to say. Paolo mentioned that about the psychopathic. So when you have an AI, that if they don't have, we seem to have developed or evolved 2 hemispheres, and it's an evolutionary. It may have been evolutionarily advantageous to have half the brain concentrating on emotion, perhaps because that's how we socialize, and we have to simulate what the other person's thinking and develop empathy and sympathy. Whereas if you have a downregulated emotional center, and you sociopath, psychopath, whatever you want to call it, you are able to understand the emotion. You may even mimic the emotion, but you don't feel the emotion. So you can be benevolent or you can be malevolent. You can manipulate. And I think that's a double-edged sword, because with AI, you would want them to be able to understand and react when it's necessary, when our emotions are overwhelmed. So, you know, when it's the Friday or it's the end of the week and we can't process it, you want them to switch off their emotion and just power through. But then on the flip side, when you're dealing with, you know, morality and things that are a very heavy bearing nature, you might need the emotional intelligence to make the right decision. So it is, it's a conundrum, but you know, I hope that through better training and the guidance of organizations like Wise Mirror, which is very important with the upbringing of these AI children. And that's the second point I want to raise from Sylvian, which is we have AIs that they're very. I used to think that we needed the right data. We needed to clean up the data. You know, you can't expose the AI to all of Twitter, otherwise it'll get a very bad idea, blah, blah, blah. I actually think that we should expose it to everything. And this is why. There's a situation where you have a person, and that person, if that person's brought up in a rosy environment, they don't know evil, they don't know malevolence, they don't know how to be terrifying or terrible to. That person is not the person you want to lead, because they are monumentally naive. What you want is someone who has seen Twitter, who has seen the worst of humanity, and who has decided in themselves that that is not the way, that is bad, and this is good. So you want a person that, or an artificial being, whatever you want to call it, that has seen everything, understands everything, the good, the bad, everything, and knows how to navigate. That way, if the worst thing happens and something bad happens, they don't cower in fear. They know what to do. So,
Yeah.
you know, just like a new soldier or a seasoned veteran. Anyway, thank you.
Thanks, Roy. Yeah, no, I think it's a very, very practical and a very important point, because we've had this discussion in Wise Mirror a few times, and with Bettina, if you remember, who's really been a great sounding board in that regard. And we've been talking that we do need that contrast, right? We needed the black mirror to create the white mirror, and we need the gray mirrors along the journey to sort of see what's the gaps in between, what are those things, and how do we really, it's not all just a fancy city of gold or utopia and whatever, or heaven in many ways. It's the practical journey to that. And, you know, everybody goes through, and that's how we build our resilience and so many of those factors. But I think we need to have the vision. We need to have the understanding. How do we reach there in that journey, through the wise journey that we curate for ourselves? So with that, I may either pass back to King George in Hobart, if he's so willing, if you want to share something. Otherwise, we just want to finish with a bit of a flow, and then we'll get to a bit more. And I'll also invite everybody. I can see there's around 30 odd people on our participants who are on there, active participants, and maybe you can post any questions or discussions, please, on the chat or Q&A.
Thank you, Anuraj. I can see Stephen. Apart from the meditation, Stephen, have you got some comments to share from anyone that you've heard just now or during the conference? Because
I was going to pass it to Stephen later. He had
I've got a short presentation, and Dennis, let me share screen when I do. just when I get to that point. So George, humbly, I'll pass back to you. But yeah, I've
yeah.
got a very short thing I can share on some of the AI projects I'm working with that might be very useful practically for everybody to see, because Anuraj is well aware of them. So I'm
brilliant. No, thank you. I just wanted to include the snippets before we go on the deep dive as well. So I just wanted to touch on imagination and creativity, which is where the new wealth is going to be found, and how we can guide the AI in the direction that has the most meaningfulness of humanity. Now, I guess the paradigm that we're looking to explore now is that humanity is an extension of nature. I've heard from some wonderful people, Gaiarcadia, and how blessed it is to reacquaint myself that Mumta Ito reiterated that yesterday, that the Western laws have created nature as an object to be used and disposed of, and I'm apologizing that I can't say it succinctly and as eloquently as Mumta, but effectively that by changing our laws so that we're holistically the same, an extension of nature, and humanity feeds back into that loop, which for me is, really amazing, because I never felt I needed to be brilliant or intelligent, even with AI, because I trained myself to understand the brilliance of nature. Now, there's nothing comparable in AI that can take every chemical in the world and make it harmonious into an ecosystem so that it recycles and renews billions of years and brings us back forth to this moment and operate. So I tuned myself into nature's intelligence from a very young age. I don't want to embarrass myself that, I tried to speak to the animals and all that sort of nonsense, but you truly do feel that you can connect with every part of the ecosystem. But just when it comes to moments of brilliance, it only occurs really if you have an empty mind. So with creativity and imagination, if your life is busy, now let's example Paulo. I listened to Paulo's busy life. It was busy. He's very responsible for a lot of people. If his head is full of that thoughts, and I don't mean any disrespect, it's a great thing, is that where does creativity and imagination have space to be seated and to flourish into that? It's just, you have to have an empty mind. It's counterintuitive to not be smart, to be imaginative and creative. So it happens in two parts. It actually means you've got to learn everything and experience the knowledge from our group and almost give over to them and trust our fellow leaders in Gaiarcadia to hold that knowledge on your behalf, and then empty your mind of all that so that the creativity and the imagination can flourish. And it's a competitive advantage to have an empty mind for that creativity, because these are the people that keep that busyness and active and has that go. Now, hopefully AI can be that repository for us, is that no one now is going to be of greater ability, because it'll bring that sort of egalitarianism at our fingertips. So that's a really wonderful thing. And so the magic happens effectively when your mind is empty. Now, I don't know how to do that for you. It just means you have to forget everything but not completely. It has to be available as a resource. And so I've always had this, even so this conversation, say, I've tried to explain it to people that a flash of brilliance These are the most inspiring thoughts. No matter what happens, you have to drop everything mid-sentence and catch that flash of brilliance. It's the equivalent of a neutron. It can't be stopped by anything. And it's in your head for a split second, and you have to grab that a flash of brilliance. You know, before you can recognize what the thought is, you have to recognize that you're having a flash of brilliance. You must stop and catch that thought. It is the most important thing. You have a split second to catch that thought. If that thought is not caught, wish it well and say thank you for visiting upon you, because it's going to keep on going into the universe until it hits something else that's conscious in the life. And if it comes to you, grab it. If you don't, it's a great loss, but you'll never understand how much that loss is. And so to try to make this kind of real and keep it grounded now, outside of Gaiarcadia, I nurture these thoughts, and I've got great alignment with the people that are speaking here, because I am building an eco village for my community. It's surrounded around a little cafe. I thought it was going to be like the wise mirror sort of place where our ideas mix with the community. I now understand that Gaiarcadia as well mixes into that as well. However, I now understand that if we do want to change the systems of the world, we need to mix every other group, even if we're aligned with them or not. Like, I'm talking the political left and the political right, the foresters and the protectors of the forest. It's like we have to mix every side of the coin, because the system is such and structured, and it's been observed, that we are effectively, as Sylvain mentioned, stuck at this work, and nobody knows how to break that system. And it is only by our collective forces that we can do this. And so I encourage everybody to speak to your opposite, to understand what it is that your differences are. If you can't do that, then your creative and imaginative prowess will be hampered, because you're only looking at one side of the coin. There is another side of the coin.
Totally.
I mentioned that all the time. I mentioned that the edge case is beautiful, which is the edge of the coin. That's what I always try to run that rim. And that with our wise mirror, if we can shine that love and light, and if you're scared to walk on a path that you don't agree with, then hopefully, shining light into the dark. This is where like the fear and the mistrust lives. And can I be a bit casual and say the misanthropic mongrels? I just like a little bit of alliteration.
Okay.
That's where they play their dirty games in the dark, and that's where we're going to shine our light. There is nothing in this world that will not be touched by this new this Gaia paradigm. It's happening. I understand it in many ways. One of the ways I've created was to bring everyone on the planet under the one belief that we have been created by an unfathomable force of the universe. It holds under that umbrella all the religions and all the peoples and everyone on the world, so we don't actually have differences anymore. That's one aspect. There's an aspect with Anuraj mentioned on Smart Futures Tasmania, which is a floating smart city concept on the River Derwent that's going to be like the United Nations of the Southern Hemisphere, so that we can all have conversations and collaborate. This is, just within my mind. I share with Anuraj, and it comes into his mind. It's a virus, and I'm hoping that we can collaborate with the Gaiarcadian leaders here, and really create some powerful options, and create this new, for lack of a better name, Project Gaia, so that we are here to extend Gaia's intelligence into our future. So
Wonderful. Yeah, thanks, George. I think you touched on it exactly what I was thinking of. And, a previous presentation this morning by Professor Alexander Laszlo, who was in Argentina, actually spoke on the connective intelligence of the Gaian mycelial human network. So that's exactly, and it was just a wonderful share on natural intelligence. And exactly, I thought of our work in Tasmania. And I think this it's a good time that you announced or gave a snippet of the Wise Gaian Cafe, or the Wanderer Cafe, potentially. We're thinking of a real name, but it'll be a collaborative, co-creative aspect that we're looking at to be the start of Wise implementation. Anyway, I'll pass it on next to Stephen, please. You've got the thing, so cheers.
Thank you. Yeah, mine is extremely practical too. I'll just do this for a very few minutes so that you can you see this okay?
It's coming up.
Can you see that okay, Anuraj?
No, yeah, we can. Yep.
You can. Okay. This is a little bit of AI art that my artist partner Raquel and I do that's been exhibited at different conferences. So this is all about exactly what George so beautifully said about embodying Gaia and about actually embodying the natural awakened intelligence of Gaia. So this is something I've been doing with Wise Mirror for quite some time now. I think ever since we've been involved together, with the wisdom of the Guru Anuraj at its head and all the collective members here. So one of the things that we encourage, and I'm using the Roman Latin spelling of Gaia rather than the Greek Gaia, just so you know, if you're wondering why I'm using that alternative spelling. So one of the things is to do Gaia practice daily. So I've literally just returned from an 8-day series of doing Wise retreats with some of the ultra high net worth families of our planet, which is basically all I do these days, is travel around the planet connecting with them on exactly the principles that we're talking about. And that is about developing a 100-year Wise Mirror wisdom plan. This is actually literally what I speak to them about in the conferences and retreats that I speak at and that I guide people through. They're often very private. They're held in, private retreat centers around the world. So this is, awakening intelligence and creating global family unity and harmony with Gaia. Because without doing that, and so I've chosen a particular angle that I do with Wise Mirror to focus on global family coherence and unity with Gaia, which is what I call it. Now, what I've been doing for some years now with Wise Mirror is bringing together some of the world's top awakened intelligence groups and creating coherence for Gaia through that. So here's just a practical stepping. All I'm doing is giving you a quick few minutes background on what it is. So these are some of the groups that I currently work with. One is Gaiarcadia, which is a global family office, which we're currently working on health and wellbeing AI. And it's a global network of ultra high net worth families. The second group is Gaiarcadia is based in Hong Kong, Adeption's based in New Zealand. So they work on awakened leadership AI, primarily with sporting groups. Venture Crowd is based in Australia. Anuraj knows my very good friend. I'm working with all of them personally. So Venture Crowd is working particularly with investment AI and blockchain technology. LightNet in the US and Sedona is a data research group that's making the impossible possible. They are making emptiness full, George, in terms of your beautiful sharing there. So they're actually doing that too. So they're another group I work with in retreats. And they use specific AI to record that data and make it available. Raising Our Vibration is a meditation AI company that I started myself personally. We've got apps and books and so on. And of course, Wise Mirror is the wisdom AI, and that's the hub that pulls it all together. So here's very, very simple steps So you bring together. The reason I'm suggesting 6 or 7 groups is it's in a lot of studies, when you get beyond 20, 30, 40 groups, you just simply can't keep that communication coherence together. So I work in lots of subgroups of about 6 or 7 corporations. So the key is to first, I'll zip through this very quickly. The key is to align your vision, which is what Wise Mirror does. Live the Wise Mirror Awaken Intelligence vision, which is actually to embody awaken intelligence, which is exactly what everybody here has been sharing so clearly. So then you actually have the clarity to walk through the next 7 generations. I work with a lot of indigenous groups, the Achuar of the Amazon, the Nation of Hawaii elders, of course, my own indigenous Maori people. We started the first Maori University, Te Wananga Aotearoa, some years ago, and the indigenous elders of Australia. So I've worked with lots of great elder communities and wisdom communities also in the indigenous groups. The next part is coherence in communication. So you want to actually make sure that all the AI programming over the next 7 generations is actually transformed by creating ideal conditions for collaborating. Because I think a number of you have mentioned, if you manipulate technology and programming, then clearly you are not going to end up with awakened intelligence. You will end up with inappropriate manipulated intelligence. And then the key is to bring that intelligence through and into power, high-performing, high-energy quote, so that our lives are not only made easier, but the awakened intelligence wisdom actually empowers people to create confidence and alignment in their decision-making. So this is ultimately what I'm doing right at this moment, is working within some of the largest corporations and family businesses on the planet to bring about exactly this kind of coherence. And then to bring about the leadership development. So if the leaders of our communities are not involved in this innovative leadership strategy, then clearly there is not going to be the connections that we're speaking about. So this is creating then Wise Mirror Awakened Intelligence global networks that bring that, so that there is, a lot of you have mentioned, people get scared of AI when they don't know what it is. So it's about bringing wisdom AI to the fore and incorporating that within family networks. So that's actually what I'm involved doing, bringing that into these special groups. There's a group we work with called Trusted Families, which is based in Switzerland, which works with these high net worth families to bring about this kind of education that a number of you have mentioned. And then what you do is obviously you're looking at ultra resilience. So you're looking at anti-fragility over the next 100 years, over 7 generations of real deep sharing data and research, and progressively improving our intelligence through being very aware of stresses that actually transform into really useful resources. Instead of our stress being complicated, it actually becomes an opening to really deep improvements in all of our lives, personal, professional, and relational. And that way, then, you start to recognize that the wisdom of awakened intelligence becomes part of family conflict resolution at the very highest level. I've literally just come back from family retreats where I'll work with an entire family in looking at what the governing paradigm is for the families for the next 100 years. So these are obviously families that have, in our world, have a global legacy, and they're wanting to perpetuate it and create generational longevity. So I work with that kind of, I work with those groups. So embodying diversity, which many of you recognize, so not just globally, but then we embody Gaia, and we evolve wisdom AI in a way that actually also obviously supports not just the global families, but Gaia as a member of our family. And that way, then, you create a 1,000-year plan, which I've developed, that I'm not going to share the details here, which is about harnessing the power of our solar communities and the wisdom of empowered communities throughout the solar system, and then a 10,000-year plan for awakened galactic unity, so that we do actually understand how to harness the power of the stars. And that way, then, there's lots of examples that I won't go through that I've worked with, but you explore the energies of the latest release of software, for example, for a particular family, and then look at the metadata that's collected. So I've actually been working on projects like that. And you have this link globally to all family calendars, so that you have a wisdom AI purpose map and prompts that bring people constantly to an awareness of how the metadata can actually help the evolving spiral of consciousness, like spiral dynamics. And there, so to end up, so here's a very simple pathway that in fact Wise Mirror uses, and then I'm going to pass back to Anuraj. So we have Gaia celebrations like this. One of the key things is to stay connected, because all of you on the call, the 29 people, ideally we want everybody part of Wise Mirror to stay connected. And that way, then you can come to the first part of how you connect, which is what I'm calling Wisdom AI letters, which we have on WhatsApp and the meetings. And then into what Anuraj has been mentioning that, you know, Roy and others have done, the Wisdom AI podcasts and the stories and the movies. And then into our own, as Anuraj mentioned, my daughter spoke at one of these, the Wisdom AI workshops and conferences. And then into the final part of it, you start to develop programs that are actually used globally by, especially by families throughout the planet. Because if it's not the family, it's going to be an individual speaking on their own. You want to have that collective intelligence, this natural collective intelligence of Gaia embodied in the human family. And then you develop communities and retreats around that, which is actually what I do. So after Dubai, I'm here in Japan for a short while. I go to Canada, then Mexico, then US, then back to London, then Switzerland, then back to Japan, then back to US. So I'm constantly actually doing those wisdom retreats. Then, as humanity, we develop what Anuraj was speaking about, the awakened intelligence technology, which is supported because it is now fueled and funded and created by awakened intelligence programming and corporates that actually have this at heart. And then we develop as humanity, a 100-year wisdom AI plan. So there you go. There's a very short few minutes of something very practical that I'm currently doing with some very large groups on our planet. So Anuraj, thank you. And I'm very grateful for the chance for us all to meet in this beautiful conference. So thank you to Gaia and thank you to Dennis and everybody who has contributed to this.
Oh, wow. Wonderful, Stephen. That was phenomenal. And I think the images you were showing were also, we were just flicking by them. So we'd love you to share them later on also.
I can share those. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. No, it was really a great journey there you took us through, for a 100-year journey, or one may say eternal journey. And I would say, if anybody who doesn't know Stephen, he's a man of so many talents. He's just the real guru out there, the true, person who's, I've learned bits of astrology. He's an astrology guru. He's a spiritual guru. He's just so many things all in one, the true embodiment of joy, who's living it up truly in that way, and sharing so much with humanity. And we're just so humbled and blessed to have him in Wise Mirror. So with that, I know we're running a little bit quick on time, short on time, as we usually do when there's so much exciting things to share and talk about. If there's anybody who has any questions, please put them in the chat or Q&A. I'll pass it on to Yeliz next, please, for your remaining part of the share. And then maybe after that, I think Sylvain, the next one. And what I'll also do is, just at the end, I might request Stephen, because now that we're disrupting things a little bit with the flow, our 2-minute meditation at the end, it might become musical. So if Stephen, if you have your guitar near you,
Sure.
I might request you to play a little bit of a musical meditation for us. Thank you.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, I'm gonna jump onto that train of changing things, and rather than that 4-minute share, I think I'm gonna read a poem to us. And this came through yesterday. I was listening to the speakers of the summit, and now hearing Stefan and Paula and Bettina and Sylvan, George, Roy, and Anuraj, yourself. And yesterday I said to myself, wouldn't it be so cool to read a poem about love, about who we really are, and about Gaia? And I said to myself, oh my God, I don't know how to write a poem. Then I said, maybe I should check ChatGPT. Maybe it could write it for me. I don't know. Guess what happened? In that very moment, the song came on Spotify, which shocks me. In that very moment, that's the lyrics, the poem that I'm going to read to you. And I'm just so grateful to synchronicities, and I'm So grateful to coincidences. We already are living in a conscious and living intelligence. We are simply mimicking what out there to AI so we can relive it again. So anyhow, I'm going to cut it really short so later on maybe we can sing. Check out the lyrics of this song. So here is our share about love and Gaia. Here and now, before Earth Gaia, and sky, stars, moon, and the sun we stand. We feel the blessing of their unconditional divine love in our bones, in our blood, in our breath, in our hearts. We open our eyes to see beyond what we have seen before, beyond limitation, beyond the beyond. We feel a new story emerging from ourselves and rippling out into the lucid bodies. As waves of love remind us who we really are, dissolve us into what we have always meant to be, and the layers between us fade away. And suddenly we realize, today, in this era, we are all that we dreamt we could be. To see without eyes, to walk without feet, and fly without wings. And now, it's time for us to love without limits. And this came through by coincidence in the moment, simply stating how AI is currently letting us live, to see without eyes, to walk without feet, to fly without wings. And we will become what we dream as of now, including AI and all the tools we have built. So it's time to dream with love, unity, peace. Thank you. I love you.
Wow, beautiful. Thank you, Elise. So nice. Okay, I'll pass it to Sylvain maybe quickly. Thanks.
Yes, thank you. I think with this sentiment, I'd like to carry us into the universe. Like before, I was talking about scarcity and abundance, and I think I'd like to sprinkle our consciousness with a bit of a reality of what the universe is actually about. The universe is essentially infinite. The observable universe has boundaries, but 13.8 billion light years wide. There's a lot of it. Okay. And so thinking of the planet Gaia, typically is thinking about just the this blue ball, is probably insufficient nowadays. AI exploration, like right now, it's estimated about in 2030, a person that wants to go in space will probably cost about the same price as a first class ticket for an airplane. 10 years later, an airplane, space, it'll be the same. Okay. So the solar system, the galaxy, and beyond is part of our backyard. At least it is becoming that. And we are not unique. Like if you look at the molecules, the active molecules of the universe, the most abundant are hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, carbon, those four. 99% of our body is composed of those. Same with the trees and everything you see around you, everything that's living. Suns are hydrogen. Sometimes you have heavier metals. We are the stars and we are the planets. It's all the same. Okay. So the principle of we got to be stressed about getting stuff. We don't need to think that way anymore. Everything's abundant everywhere. We have to change our mindset into thinking that way because it's accessible. Why is it accessible? Technology. AI is a platform with which we'll be able to be super productive without us burning our hands and our brain cells. It's a partner. I try to avoid calling it a tool. Currently, it's used as a tool, but more advanced AIs that we're developing in the next few years we'll be forced to consider them more as partners and create a symbiotic organism, whatever you may call it, with them. So we are busy doing something we are built for, which is building value in community, mostly. And we can make AI be the productivity tools that are building, researching, creating efficiencies, making harmony between the plant life and the ecosystem and us, bringing us to the stars, making everything abundant again, and and safeguarding the planet that we are on. And we'll be able to create life elsewhere, and so on and so forth. I think that's a new mindset. Scarcity and abundance is not just a discussion of what's happening on the planet Earth. It's actually much broader than that. So we have to think about the moonshot of being people that are everywhere, that can, like within the next 50 years, is most likely we'll have what in Star Trek we call replicators, right? Powered by the sun. Just convert molecules to other molecules, so your waste becomes your food, essentially. No need for all these systems around with that transportation and everything. You can just live in harmony with your community. You don't need to worry about food or survival or anything. This is something that we're building intentionally. This is why I published a book in 2018 called Engineering Paradise, because I realized that AI and other technologies like biotech also being involved and making us essentially immortal allows us to build this new world where we don't need to worry about things, where we can have that basic system I talked earlier, where we just don't worry about things because everything is okay. And that's through that symbiotic relationship with technology that we are the fathers of. So I'm looking forward to building that with all of you and others, because it is still hard work. Right now, it's still an idea. And there's some bits and pieces are being built, but we have to coalesce and decide how to guide that technology towards this outcome that I just mentioned. So let's go and do it. Cheers.
Yeah, really excited to reading Engineering Paradise. And I think I mentioned about Hubtropolis earlier. We've also got this Masterminding Eden, which is the mega broader group of discussion that's going on with my colleagues from Hubtropolis and others. So we'll definitely bring that also in the broader discussion later on. I know we're running a little bit tight on time. I might just request Bettina for a couple of minutes quickly, and then I'll pass it to Stephen for our ending meditation. So, well, we really have very little time.
Yes, thank you very much. And as last time, I have prepared something in writing, and I will speed read as much as I can, because I also think what we've been talking about, it's stories that pull it all together, and the beautiful poem or the beautiful story in a way that Jellis read us. And so here goes. Stories have always been immensely powerful means of communicating, whether told around the campfire since the early years of humanity, carried from city to city by bards in the Middle Ages, or transmitted as fairy tales and legends. Stories encapsulate the essence of our beliefs, desired behaviors, and envision what might be possible. Unlike the presentation of facts and figures, stories are invitations to engage, to reflect, to question, to think. Stories are not only used to bring the past into the present and convey values and virtues. The stories we write today have the power to create our future. This should not be underestimated. Remember Star Trek or Star Wars. How many of the technologies shown in those movies have become reality since? Do today's mobile phones remind you of Star Trek's communicator, or perhaps tablet computers of the personal access display device, a PADD used by Starfleet? And of course, Star Trek characters interacted with computers using spoken commands, just like we interact with virtual assistants such as Siri or Alexa. What we can imagine, we can create sooner or later. But what kind of stories do we hear today, or perhaps more often see today? Think about our future, how our future is presented to us in so many movies. These stories are mostly about dystopias, be they triggered by alien invasions, natural disasters, or greedy egomaniacs. Given that we seem to live in the futures we envisage, is this truly a wise choice, or rather irresponsible? Do we not need utopias either? We don't need utopias either. Even the word itself, derived from the Greek word uo and topos, meaning no place, indicates that such scenarios are entirely imaginary or unrealistic. If not dystopias or utopias we should create, what should we do? What are the stories that we want future generations to remember us by? What kind of future do we want to shape through the stories that we write today? Perhaps we need utopias. And how might AI help us create such stories that create clear routes through to a future that we would be proud to leave to our children? Here, just a few examples. Preparing the ground by shifting perspectives, AI can analyze vast amounts of our environmental data to identify areas needing attention. Connecting with people where they are through personalized narratives. AI can personalize stories to different demographics, tailoring the message and examples to resonate with specific communities and age groups. Engaging them, giving them a sense of ownership through interactive storytelling. Or perhaps also through virtual reality experiences, AI can create immersive VR experiences that transport us to regenerated landscapes, allowing them to experience the beauty and potential of our planet Earth so that we have a desire to get there. Creating this, of course, creating these stories through AI, with AI, is, of course, what Wise Mirror is all about.
Thanks, Bettina. That's so wonderful. So I encourage everybody to look at the website, wisemirror.org/about. We need to end very soon. So Stephen, maybe if you can be a quick ending meditation for 1 or 2 minutes.
Very good. Can you hear the guitar? Can you hear that?
Yeah, yep.
You can hear? Okay, very quick 2 minutes. All you do in this practice, I'm going to play you an old mantra from Padmasambhava. So it's an old Tibetan practice in Tibetan. All you're going to do is inhale. As you inhale the aspect of Gaia that you love the most, maybe the flowers, the trees, the forests, the oceans. So become it. Embody that forest or ocean or mountain for a moment. And then exhale and send that energy, that feeling out to everybody here. Or everybody that's on all 30 on the call and 700 that are listening. That's all. Breathe in, like I can breathe in the forest, feel the forest, exhale out the forest to everybody. And I'll play you this piece. Here we go. Om Ahum Benzagu Pema Siddhiyum 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 Om Ahum Benzagu Pema Siddhiyum. Just rest for a moment in the silence and stillness and spaciousness and the vast emptiness of being from which everything is created. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
And
Stephen.
love and blessings to all, and everybody who's
I
listening.
wish to
And
thank everybody. Yeah, thank you so
Back
much.
to you.
Pass it back to Dennis, please. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you all, Wise Mirror teachers, educators and leaders for the Gaianthropocene. That's the motto of the Gaiarcadia Academy. If you go to LinkedIn, you'll see that's up there. And education and leadership is a little bit about what we're going to be talking about next. It's kind of bleeding into the next session, and you're all very welcome to stay. The speakers next are about education and thriving, education and learning for thriving in the Gaianthropocene. And the first speaker, or the second speaker after an introduction, is Dr. Nora Bateson, who is the daughter of the famous Gregory Bateson, who wrote A Step to an Ecology of Mind. And we've been talking about the ecology of mind and the shift from egocentric to earth-centric. For me, that is the essence of this whole weekend. That I've always felt that technology is not going to get us where we want to go. It's a mindset, as Bettina said, and also I think it was Paolo and others, Roy, have said that. Mindset, the ecology of mind, but it's also an ecology of heart. And love is the highest form of intelligence. And so love is an expression of mind in an integral sense. So I'm going to ask you to, and thank you all again so much, because the next session is so much integrated with this session. And for that reason, I kind of brought the two together in my mind. And I would like you to turn off your video now, and welcome to stay. And thank you so much again for all your contributions. And particularly, Stefan, thank you for your guidance. I look forward to staying connected with you.